Today on CityCast Houston, this city has no shortage of icons and symbols, from astronauts and cowboys to Simone Biles, who just broke records at the Olympics. But we wanted to know, what's the ultimate icon that truly represents H-Town for the people who live here? It's Thursday, September 12th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, I am back with executive producer Laura Isensee. Laura, what's up?
Hey, great to be here.
I can't wait. I don't know. Our friendship is going to be tested today, so this is going to be a lot of fun. And we also have a very special guest. You'll probably recognize her voice because she is Houston's first lady of TV, a friend of mine as well, Deborah Duncan, who hosts Great Day Houston on KHOU Channel 11. Deborah, finally, you're here. How are you?
I'm good. How are y'all? If y'all are good and I'm good, the world's right.
Yeah, I'm doing great. And what a time to have you on, because there are so many things that are just so uniquely Houston that have become symbols for the city, from songs to movies to certain dishes to moments in history. But I think some symbols resonate more with me than others. So we're doing a little tournament to see if we can determine what is the most Houston thing ever to represent H-Town. And of course, we've developed some rules for this, how this is all going to go down. And Laura, you're going to explain this because it's going to get intense.
It is going to get a little intense. So here's how it's going to work. We've created an Elite 8 tournament bracket featuring some iconic sports teams, institutions, celebrities, and of course, food. So Raheel and I will be the two Houston experts as members of CityCast Houston and longtime residents, and Deborah will be our judge. So for each round, she's going to give us both a matchup. We'll have a little time to debate, and then Deborah will decide who wins and moves on to the next round until we have the ultimate Houston icon. And Deborah will settle any ties as our special guest judge.
And just one note, obviously, this list has only 8 things, right? And our team was going back and forth on what to include, and we could have done multiple episodes for any of these categories. So this is not an exhaustive list. So I want to apologize right now to the Astrodome, 610 Traffic, Galveston, right, for not making the official bracket.
Okay, I have to say, when I saw it, I went, okay, the Astrodome is actually the very first reason I came to Houston. My high school band from San Antonio, we came and played the halftime for the Oilers. I was going, where is the Astrodome? But you're right. There's a lot of things to choose from. But
Right, so much to choose from. And if you want to weigh in, by the way, or you just want to see the bracket we're talking about, head to the link in our show notes, and we posted the bracket in there. Or you can go to houston.citycast.fm, and you can send us a message on Instagram as well to weigh in at CityCast Houston.
All right, so here's our brackets. I'm actually old enough to remember this the first time around. I'm not sure you two were born yet or barely. All right, we have 90s Rockets versus the Astros title teams. We have NASA versus Houston Rodeo. We have Beyonce, to the left, versus Simone Biles. And then we have barbecue versus Tex-Mex. For this first round, you will each have 2 minutes to plead your case, and then you will hear a sound when you need to wrap it up. All right, here we go. Raheel, I know you're a big sports fan. As we know, sports can do so much for a community. 90s Rockets did a whole lot for Houston, and of course, the Astros title teams, especially after Harvey. Go at it.
Okay, I'm going to kick things off, and I'm going to be the first person to admit I am not a big sports fan. But the 1990s Houston Rockets are so iconic, they even get me excited. So I was actually a kid when they were making their run to the NBA Finals. And you have to remember that at this time in Houston, we never had any national championship in any major sports. Not the Astros, not the Oilers. Houston Texans didn't even exist. And then came along the Houston Rockets. We had Hakeem Olajuwon in center. Then in 1995, we got Clyde Drexler, Clyde the Glide, who played guard and forward. And, he and Hakeem played together back in the 80s at the University of Houston. Phi Slamma Jamma. Who doesn't love that? So the Rockets got back-to-back championships, 1994, 1995, and this team was all heart and skill. And, The Houston Rockets, I think why they're so iconic is they got everybody excited. Even my grandmother, she would never miss a game on TV. And again, they were the first ones to bring us a championship. And you cannot replicate that excitement and bringing people together. And last thing I'll say, no trash can banging here, no cheating
Laura.
scandal. It was
Oh.
all won on the court. And that's all I'm saying about that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Raheel.
We're going to the
She's
trash
pretty
cans
good.
this early.
All right, plead your case.
Okay, I love the Houston Rockets. Okay, Hakeem Olajuwon is my number one Houston athlete. I love him as a Muslim boy growing up in the 90s in Houston as an immigrant. I had something to look up to, right? Like, this is Hakeem. So this is really hard for me because, yes, the Rockets won the first championship, but this Astros team in 2017, what they did in terms of bringing some joy, something to look forward to for the city after Hurricane Harvey will never be replicated. Both teams do have the greatest players of their franchise history on their rosters in Jose Altuve and Hakeem Olajuwon. But the stretch that this Astros team and Altuve are on right now, where they go to the ALCS 7 years running, they've gone to 4 World Series. By the way, the Rockets have never gotten to the finals more than 2 times, and they've won it twice, just like the Houston Rockets. And this team also represents one of the best things about Houston, our diversity with players from Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and other countries as well. They became a rallying cry for us. And yes, the trash cans, let's address this right now. Yes, they were found guilty by the MLB for stealing signs later on. But did you know that same year, the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees were also found guilty by the MLB for stealing signs via Apple Watches?
2 wrongs don't make a right, Raheel.
So yes, we are the faces of cheating, unfortunately, but now you can't go anywhere in Houston without seeing Astros gear. We are so proud of this team and what this dynasty has done. I think it just represents the best of this city, and it pains me to argue against the Rockets, but the Houston Astros, they are the icons in this incredible golden era.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the deal. I have to remove my bias because I actually knew Akeem Olajuwon and Drexler during college, the Phi Slamma Jamma moment, right? And I remember with Akeem, his parents were not understanding this basketball thing because it's like, you are Nigerian. You should be working on your 5th PhD by now. Right? He's like, no, trust me, this basketball thing is working out pretty well. I love the backstories with the Rockets. Clyde Drexler in the offseason was working at a bank in an internship because he wanted to go into banking. So basketball was not his end all to be all. And Rudy Tomjanovich, what a fighter he was as well, and really encouraged the team. With that said, you're right, Raheel. What have you done for me lately? That's kind of how we are in society, and the Astros are much more current. They're in it right now, right? But they really showed what sports can do in a community. We look at it as just entertainment so often, but it's not. It was so cohesive after Harvey. We needed that. But when it's all said and done, I think I'm going to have to... I think the slam dunk goes to the Rockets.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Deborah picking the Rockets.
Wow.
I did not see that coming.
Part of it is because I'm just old enough to remember.
No, and that's totally fine. I told you this one is a hard one because the Houston Rockets represented so much. But man, the Astros are in a golden era. But hey, look, you get the last call, Deborah. It's on you.
All right. There we go. Ready for the next bracket?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go. Talk about iconic Houston. I mean, it showed up in movies and everywhere. It started off that whole space age, NASA. But then we go to that thing that brings the city together every year at the same time and creates probably some of the people who will go on to work at NASA by providing college scholarships. So NASA versus the Houston Rodeo. Raheel, why don't you start on this one?
Do you know what the most famous saying about our city across the world? Love it or hate it, Houston, we have a problem. Even though the actual quote is, Houston, we've had a problem.
Yeah. But then again, there's also failure is not an option. Just throwing that in.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true. But around the world, this is why our city's name is spoken. It's one of the most famous sayings ever. And you can't mention Houston without mentioning that and saying how important NASA is to our city. Johnson Space Center is command center for everything space. Literally right now, you can go there and there are people working 24/7 in command center with the International Space Station, talking to astronauts, making sure they are safe in space, making sure they are changing the future of how we explore space. And that is happening right here. There are also over 11,000 contractors working at Johnson Space Center and 100 plus astronauts training as well. There's also so many other companies that work around Johnson Space Center. And in recent years, Space City has become our official, unofficial nickname, with every sports team really leaning into the Space City title with special edition jerseys. And of course, the Rockets and Astros are space-themed names. We are Space City. Come on, this is us. Houston is Space City. Without NASA, there is no iconic saying. I can't make any more of an argument. This might be an unofficial poll, but around the nation and maybe even the world, Houston is known for space, even if we don't launch rockets from here.
All right. Rebuttal?
All right. Well, I'm going to say yes, NASA Space Center is great for school field trips. I went there back in middle school. I haven't been back since. But the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, it brings you back every year, year after year. It's just a cultural phenomenon. You know, you talked about that saying, Houston, we have a problem. Well, you know, I lived outside of Texas for a little bit, and people would ask me, do you ride a horse? And they weren't completely joking, because that is part of our stereotype. But again, this is not just the world's biggest rodeo and livestock show. It brings together so many different cultures, our past, our present. It is all there in a 20-day, like kind of mini city over at NRG. It is so diverse. Yes, there is Western cowboy culture, but also Go Tejano Day that celebrates Mexican vaquero culture and music. Let's remember Selena gave her last live performance there at the Astrodome wearing her iconic purple jumpsuit. And that etched memories in so many hearts of Houstonians. She had a record-breaking crowd, and Go Tejano Day still sells the most tickets of any day at the rodeo. And the rodeo also celebrates Black cowboy culture, like the Prairie View Trail Riders, who were the first Black trail riders in the rodeo. And come on, when you see the trail riders going down Memorial Drive against the Houston city skyline, where else in the world are you going to see that? Then, okay, here's another reason: the food. Barbecue cook-off. I know you love barbecue, Raheel. Trill
Yes.
burgers, and almost anything you can eat on a stick. I'm talking cheesecake on a stick, chicken and waffles on a stick, fried Oreos. The rodeo draws over 2 million people, but it's run by thousands and thousands of volunteers. So if that spirit of giving back isn't classic Houston, then I don't know what is. The Astrodome was the rodeo's home for 30 years. It's where I've seen Beyonce and Willie Nelson, all these amazing artists come through. It literally encapsulates everything about Houston.
And yet it's
Ooh.
not in a single movie or TV show like NASA.
It just hasn't been made yet.
All right. NASA has not done a great job, I don't think, over the years of really showing all the important things that they've done that touch our lives every day. And I'm going to share one story. I did this on a radio show years ago where I said, if you know something about NASA that we should know, tell us. And a man called in and said, as a little boy growing up, his mother would just struggle with his really heavy wheelchair that weighed more than he did to get him to the park to play. He said, today, fast forward, thanks in part to NASA programs, his 8-year-old daughter can pick up his titanium wheelchair almost with one hand.
Wow.
Right? So NASA, no doubt, has done things that have impacted the world. But when you look at the public entity versus one that's a little bit more of a private entity, then it becomes something a little different. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo for decades, those scholarships that got kids to school and got them along their way and into our communities and probably producing some future astronauts. But the difference between these two is one of them you can experience in a way where you actually take part in it. And so it has a lot of legs, if you will. Now, I will say on that trail ride thing, I did have to take up a couple of points because for some reason, every year I always end up
in traffic.
the trail ride, right? So, but I'm going to have to say there's so many moving parts that only happens because the public takes hold of it and lassos it. Sorry, Raheel. It's going to be the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo.
Hey,
Oh,
that's
Yeah,
totally
it's not
fine.
in the movie yet, but maybe Urban Cowboy, was that kind of a part of it? I don't know.
Do people nationally know us for the rodeo, or is it like a Houston thing? I think more people know us for NASA, but Deborah, you are the judge, and I respect your pick.
Didn't we say Houston things, iconic Houston things? We own this. We own this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
iconic
So,
Houston.
all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Next up, this is a tough one. Beyonce, Simone Biles. Laura?
Oh, this is so hard, but I'm going to advocate for Simone Biles here. I was just watching her documentary, Simone Biles Rising, and it just reminded me why she is so great. Like, not just in gymnastics, the GOAT, greatest of all time, but she is such a symbol and model of resilience and champion for mental health. She had a tough childhood in foster care, and then after she was adopted by her grandparents here in the Houston area, she just took that second chance in life. And she's talked about that she worked hard, used her talent, becoming the most decorated gymnast ever. 11 Olympic medals, 30 world championship medals, and 5 skills named after her. Literally, no one else can match that. And let's go back to her challenges and just how human she is. Back in 2020, she stepped back at the Tokyo Olympics to focus on her mental health, and she got a lot of criticism. But she showed us that true strength is knowing when to take a break and take care of yourself, especially if you're dealing with trauma. And then when she returned to Paris this Olympics, she was better than ever. She's just changed her entire sport and shifted the conversation around mental health. And she's not just a celebrity who visits Houston or grew up here. She lives here. She's built her forever home in Spring with her husband, who used to play for the Houston Texans. And you might see her grabbing food around town like she did after the Olympics. You can also get married at the courthouse where she got married right here in Houston if you're a really big Biles fan. So, she just keeps it real and just such a great model for young girls that you don't have to hurt yourself to be a champion. You can take a break. You can take care of yourself and come back stronger, better than ever.
We're giving you a 10 on that performance right there. That was good.
Okay.
Now, Raheel, let's earn a Grammy, Raheel.
You absolutely nailed the dismount on that one. That was great. But Beyonce, okay, this is tough, but it might be the easiest one for me to argue. 285 million. That's not how many cars are on the Houston roadways and we're stuck in traffic. That's how many records Queen Bee has sold and has become one of the most famous musical artists on the planet. She's headlined a Super Bowl, has 32 Grammys. No other artist has that. She's changed the way music is released in the digital era with multiple shock drops of albums. She's always holding it down for H-Town in her music and is here when the city needs her. She's as much part of the history of Houston when you think about global headlines than any of our sports teams, our oil and gas industry, the Met Center, and anything else you can think of. She is as Houston as you can get. And this isn't a knock on Simone, okay, by any means. But Beyonce is famous year-round, not every 4 years. I still love you, Simone Biles, but we are trying to win a debate here.
All right. I have met both of them. And Laura, I think a really important thing that you said is we always focus on where somebody is, not what it took for them to get there. I happen to know, and she shared that with me years ago, Beyonce's tough times. There were times that they would go off to a club in Atlanta to do an event, and they made no money. In fact, Matthew Knowles left writing a check that he couldn't cash to the club, right? But his whole thing was this girl wants this dream so badly and she's willing to put in all the work for it. And they shared those parenting tips of when you know to lean into what your child wants and needs and to make those dreams happen. But Beyonce also came on and talked about when Destiny's Child broke up, and it was very public. It was kind of nasty. And she said she just locked herself in her bedroom and she couldn't pull herself out of the funk. She didn't want to write. She didn't want to sing, but she shared that and said, you're going to go through some things and hopefully change, as we all know, can create what it is at your next level, your next step. So I appreciated that with her. And so with Simone Biles also, I mean, the Lifetime movie made on her, what she went through. She is such a great example for you get to dictate your own destiny. Nobody else can do that for you, no matter what's happening around you. The most powerful person in your life is used, right? But on this one, I have to say it's going to come down to just a very narrow, very thin way for me to decide who wins this one. So I could theoretically go to a karaoke club and go to the left, everything you own in a box to the left. And if I drink enough, I'll act like I am Beyonce. If there is nothing that Simone Biles is doing that I can pretend to do, I would kill myself. Right. So I'm going to have to go with somebody who will take us through the next decades as well. And that's going to be Queen Bee, Beyonce.
Oh,
Yeah,
Beyonce.
again, Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast ever. And again, she reps H-Town. I love it. But this is Beyonce, y'all. Beyonce, come on.
Yeah.
We got one more category, Deborah.
All right, this next category, as we know, Houston is the foodie capital of the country right now. A lot of that is because of our diversity, but there are two things in particular that are iconic here. One is barbecue versus Tex-Mex. All right, Raheel, start.
All right. Did Central Texas style barbecue start here in Houston? No, it didn't. I'm not going to argue that. But it got here as fast as it could and has people from all over flocking here because we are the best to do it. From legendary and historical joints like Gatlin's, Good Company, and Papa's, to revolutionary places that change the barbecue game in the last 15 to 20 years with Killen's Barbecue. You got Blood Brothers, Tejas Chocolate. We have become a destination for barbecue restaurants. Our barbecue joints are constantly making the Texas Monthly's celebrated top 50 barbecue restaurants list, and we continue to change the game up with our own style of barbecue as well that celebrates our diversity and cultures with places like KHOU Barbecue, Fijis. Foodies from all over flock to Houston for our barbecue restaurants. They plan tours around our specific barbecue joints. We have so many great offerings, and the sides are second to none. They're delicious. That's why I'm making this case for barbecue as the food for Houston.
All right, Laura.
Okay. Well, when we go out for, say, a birthday or Father's Day or some other celebration, we are going to one of the classic Tex-Mex restaurants in Houston, like El Tiempo, Ninfa's, Molina's. For what else? Fajitas. I mean, can you just hear that hot plate sizzling with beef and chicken and caramelized onions and roasted chiles, and you got your warm tortillas? I mean, it is our signature comfort food, and it brings people together. I mean, this is family style sharing, pass it along. So this is why I think Tex-Mex is the iconic food of Houston. And there's more, because what goes with great Tex-Mex? Queso and chips.
Can I throw in a margarita?
Oh, yes. I was just about to say margarita on the rocks with salt and guacamole. But here in Houston, we have some of the best Tex-Mex restaurants in the whole state, if not the country. And all the dishes are endless. I mean, crispy tacos, cheesy nachos, savory tamales. So that's why I think Tex-Mex wins this category, because of its diversity and how it reflects Houston's history of being a melting pot of cultures. And that's Houston.
All right. So I moved to the States from Taipei, Taiwan, and we moved to San Antonio. I stuck a tortilla chip in my mouth with hot sauce and said, "What is this?" And then I discovered the enchiladas and the tacos and all the other stuff. I was like, we have been missing out. Barbecue we could get in Memphis, Nashville, the Carolinas. Everybody says they have the best barbecue across the country. But Tex-Mex in particular, really in Houston, it helped to define being the foodie capital.
Yes.
Tex-Mex is different than even Mexican food. It is its own category now. And I love when I go into the restaurants and you have that feel of being immersed in the culture. So I'm going to have to go with this one because I'm flashing back to that childhood moment. And you can barbecue in your own backyard. But hey, barbecue does have its advantage when we have power outages because of storms. You can just throw the meat in the grill. Yes. Go, look, it's barbecue. But I'm going to have to go with, Laura, as you said, that celebratory feeling that we have with Tex-Mex as well. So Tex-Mex is winning that category. Okay, things are narrowing down when it comes to what is most iconic Houston. Let's go with Rockets versus Rodeo. Raheel, you are a big sports fan. Let's start with Rockets.
Yeah, as I said, the Rockets team means so much, not only to me, but millions of other Houstonians. It's the first championship. When you look at the historical impact, not only on our city, but also the NBA in general, the Defensive Player of the Year award is named after Hakeem Olajuwon because of how great of a defensive player he is. You can make an argument that he is one of the best centers of all time. And that team has so many great characters. You got Robert Horry, Sam Cassell, Kenny Smith, as you mentioned, Clyde Drexler. It brought the first titles to our city. It's also linked to one of the most infamous moments in American history, the chase of O.J. Simpson in his white Bronco. That happened during the Knicks Rockets finals game. Like, we got cut off because that game was happening as the chase was happening. So we're linked to one of the most infamous moments. It's the Houston Rockets, the iconic colors, the red, the yellow. It is part of our history. I can't make more of an argument about how important this team is to the city.
All right, Laura, back to Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Here's the thing. Ag Venture, it is the place where a lot of kids found out where babies were born. I'm just saying, talk about, an impact.
Yeah, talk about an impact. I'm with you, Raheel. 90s nostalgia. I was a 90s kid. I love the Rockets. But Houston Rodeo, I can go back year after year. Some of my earliest memories are going with my dad and my sisters, going to the livestock show to see those bunnies and other animals. And last year, I got to take my two girls to the rodeo. And I want to go back to what Deborah said earlier. And I think this is why the Houston Rodeo wins this category, is that in 2024 alone, the Houston Rodeo gave out more than $14 million in scholarships. And this isn't just a show. This is helping students further their education and their entire lives. And I think that is iconic, Houston, and deserves to move on to the final round.
Yeah. Laura, you can still go to Houston Rockets games too. Like, they're still playing.
Not with Hakeem. Not with Hakeem.
Hakeem's always there.
All right. Okay. So, I said earlier, I love the Rockets, but the great thing about the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, one of them, you're going to watch a game, and it does do stuff for the city, but you're going to watch a game. The other, you can take part in it. You can be 5 years old and you can take part in mutton busting, or you can do a calf scramble. But it involves so many different people, and I'm just going to have to go in this round. It's going to be the world famous Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo.
Deborah, you just let down your college classmates. Hakeem and Clyde are going to call you and say, you picked against us.
Well, no. I was at UT. They were at U of H. We ended up, for a mutual friend, ended up in the double dating thing.
Okay.
But no, I did not let them down. I've seen their paychecks. They're just fine.
Okay.
So the rodeo goes to the finals.
Yeah. Giddy up.
Up next, boiling it down to, there are certain numbers that I have in my phone. That is one of them. I cannot wait to call Beyonce to tell her she was up against Tex-Mex food.
Okay, that's a flex right there, Deborah. We're not going to let that flex go by. You need to send her this episode if you're going to do it.
Ring, ring. Okay, Beyonce. Who's defended Beyonce against Tex-Mex?
I have to defend Queen Bee, okay? Because I don't want the beehive coming after me, one. So that's the other reason. But look, I already laid out the reasons, right? Beyonce is so Houston. I didn't even mention all the Houston businesses that she reps on the reg, all right? Frenchies. You've got institutions like UGK and Willie D. She's always putting them in lyrics. She even puts on for the next generation of Houston musicians like Meg Thee Stallion in the super hit Savage remix that had the world captivated. By the way, USA Today even put together a list of things you need to do to experience Houston like Beyonce. Like, that's how important Beyonce is to us. And I didn't even mention Destiny's Child, right? Like in round one, and how important they were in the 90s in terms of pop chart success with 60 million records sold. So there's that part of Beyonce's legacy as well. There's nothing more Houston than Beyonce. Everybody knows Beyonce's from Houston when you talk about it. Laura, your thoughts?
Well, there's nothing more Houston than Beyonce coming to Houston and eating Tex-Mex. I mean, look, I love Beyonce too. I mean, Destiny's Child takes me back. I love her latest album. I love Beyonce, but, I just want to go back to, we're talking about Houston and what Houston is known for. Houston is known for its food, and Tex-Mex is just at the top of the food chain because this is how we celebrate. It's how we come together. It's how we have some comfort. The first thing I wanted to have after Hurricane Beryl was some tacos and a margarita because it was a rough day and there was no power. So again, I just think this is like the foundation, and it's something for everybody to partake in.
What this kind of boils down to is how people get to experience somebody, right? Houston has other famous people, but the thing about Tex-Mex, I'm just going to have to say, is that celebrities can come and go. They will come and go over time. But Tex-Mex is a culture, and it's in the fabric of who you are as a city. And so that will be there forever. Thin Margin, Beyonce, Don't Hate Me, I'm sorry. And I know you love Tex-Mex too, is going to be Tex-Mex.
Wow. That is a huge upset in my opinion. Beyonce doesn't make the finals.
Yeah. Well, I'm upset with myself because I love her. But I love Beyonce. Girl, I love you. You know I love you. Okay, I'm going to text her right now. I love you. But but knowing Beyonce, she's so humble. She said, girl, don't let me get in the way of a good fajita and a margarita. All right.
Wow. So when we were looking at these brackets, Laura, we were like, there's no way Beyonce's not going to be in the final. So now we have the Houston Rodeo taking on Tex-Mex in the finals. And by the way, listeners, you can go to houston.citycast.fm or the link in our show notes, and you can vote on these first round matchups. So we will look at the listener winners as well in future episodes, and you can look at the results as well. We'll publish them. This is going to be a tough one. The Houston Rodeo versus Tex-Mex. Laura, I mean, it's just an open forum, I guess.
I'm going to start off with the rodeo because, again, we have the stereotype of the cowboy and the tumbleweeds. But what's great about the Houston Rodeo is that it both kind of honors that stereotype, but also blows past it. Again, the diversity that you see at the Houston Rodeo when you go, everyone who comes, whether they're new to Houston or have been here for generations, it really is a place for everyone. And did I mention the rides? Like, you got the music and you got the food, and okay, you can have Tex-Mex at the rodeo. Yeah. So there you go.
This one's tough. Like, it's hard to make an argument for Tex-Mex, right? Because nationally, that stereotype of us being cowboys, it's part of our culture. It's part of our identity. Yeah. And we're known for that. Hey, you guys just ride horses in the streets. And no, we don't. Unless you're coming down for the rodeo, then yes, the trail ride, we actually do. So there is that.
Are you abandoning Tex-Mex?
I am. I can't make an argument for Tex-Mex being more iconic than the Houston Rodeo. With these two things left, I think the Houston Rodeo is the clear winner here.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you actually, it's in the name, right? Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, because there are other places that can lay claim to Tex-Mex as well, all across the state. It's funny. I had breakfast with, name drop, King Charles when he was just Prince Charles. And I asked him, is Texas everything that you thought it was? He goes, well, actually, he goes, I really thought I'd see people riding horses. He thought that as well. But we are more than that. But that's how sometimes people see Texas as the whole state. Yeah. When we talk about drilling down to Houston, we own this Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. And if it was on the Fortune list, it would be like a Fortune 500 company for the amount of money that it raises in the short amount of time that it runs. So it's not only the fun, cute things that we see, it's a business, and it's a big business.
Yeah, this was so tough. This was so much fun as well. And by the way, again, we know we left some things off. And yeah, we took shots at some of our iconic stuff. But we love everything on this list. And the Houston Rodeo being the most iconic Houston thing is okay by me. It feels right.
Yeah.
I'm good with it. Maybe if Beyonce had changed her name to Houston Beyonce Carter, then maybe.
Deborah, I guess she's just not putting enough Houston lyrics in there for you, because it's literally on every song, it seems like, that she says something about Houston.
This is true. But she lives where?
New York.
New York.
She has a place here, but move back to Houston, Beyonce, and that would have put you right over the top.
Yes. I think that would have put her over the top. But I am so happy that the Houston Rodeo has come out on top. Most Houston thing ever.
Deborah, thank you so much. That was so much fun, and we hope to have you back on.
You are welcome, although I think you already had it worked out. But thank you for letting me participate. And I'll see you soon, Raheel, for Houston Happenings.
All right.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
That was executive producer Laura Isensee and our special guest judge, Deborah Duncan. You can watch her every weekday morning hosting Great Day Houston on KHOU Channel 11. All right, so do you think we got it wrong? Well, good news. Now it's your turn to help pick the ultimate Houston icon. You can vote on the brackets with the link in our show notes. That will do it for today. I'm Raheel Ramzanali. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. It's part of our culture. It's part of our identity. It's something that we all hate, right? Because we're like, we don't ride our cowboys.
Would you say we don't ride our cowboys?
Hey,
Whoops.
you might, I don't know.